Welcome back to Terror by the Bay. I'm David. It is Friday, April 7th. Congratulations, you made it to the weekend. For those of you who don't work on the weekend, that's fantastic. For those of you who do work on the weekend, I'm sorry, your vacation, your break's over. Time to get to work. Happy upcoming Easter and Passover to everybody who celebrates on Sunday. I want to throw tonight. I want to throw on something a little bit different. I don't think I've seen anybody throw on this before, and it's something that keeps coming to mind. Throughout the 2020 election, one of the things that Donald Trump keeps wanting to get is access to the voting machines. He wanted the National Guard or the Army to confiscate voting machines, and even in Arizona, they want to look at voting machines and take the guts out on those things, so on and so forth. And it's never been adequately explained to me why he wants to see the voting machines. I mean, typically it's a superficial explanation like, oh, well, it's just a distraction, kind of like trying to say that get the election overturned in Georgia or something along those lines. But that's actually fraud because he wanted to find 11,000 votes that didn't exist. Or maybe it's like announcing there's an investigation. If he confiscates the voting machines, people will think, well, there must be something wrong because he confiscated the voting machines. Now, that could be likely, but he seems fixated on it. And Republicans project. That's one of the things that we learned in this, is that whenever they're up to no good, especially Trump, when he's up to no good, he always projects it onto somebody else. And the argument is that it was changing votes from Trump to Biden. And if he projects, that would mean that he was expecting these machines to run a program or an algorithm or be hacked or something where they change votes from Biden to Trump. And it could be that it changes a certain, is there an algorithm out there that changes a certain percentage of the votes? Or in certain areas, it doesn't really matter if you do it in a heavily red district or a heavily blue district. But if you're like in a swing state or something like that, a battleground state, switching votes such that you can carry that state, that gets you in. And I'm wondering if he wants these machines because he expected them to do that. They didn't do it. And now he wants to gut them to figure out what went wrong with that plan. Right? And the only thing that might have gone wrong with that plan is that so many Democrats came out to vote that whatever small amount of shenanigans those machines were switching, now if it switches just even like 1% of the vote, that's a 2% swing. And if you show up and an extra 10% Democrats show up, then you would expect that 1 or 2% that it might have switched didn't happen, or it did happen, but it wasn't enough to make a difference. And Donald's not exactly the most critical thinking of guys to sort of understand things like titers and things along those lines, or just that magnitude of problem. So what I want to throw on, 4 minutes into this, hear me rambling, I want to throw on what is the background with Donald Trump's obsession with voting machines? Did he expect that there's an algorithm or some type of manipulation that would cause those votes to be swung? And it didn't swing as much as he wanted. Let's find out. Okay, so things are happening quickly and moving out of troubled waters. Okay, so does that mean votes are being switched? I don't know. Possibly, okay, so things are happening quickly. It could be that he's asking for the voting machines because he lost the election, and so now he has to come up with some ideas really quickly to stir up the pot, and maybe getting voting machines really, really quickly would be a great way to do that, right? Like, oh, I've got these voting machines. There's clearly something wrong with this election. And look, they're right next to Hunter Biden's laptop. Who would have known? So we'll keep an open mind on that one. That's kind of where I'm going with this right now. Is that he needed something to cause a distraction, and that was one of the quickest things he could seize upon. And it's a big visible thing too, right? And everybody would be talking about it because everybody uses voting machines. Okay, so in the past, we've got this being left out in the cold. Okay, so it's, I think, okay, so the other thing that it could be is if our intelligence agencies knew that there was some algorithm or program or hacking going on, they could have act quickly to prevent it from happening. And in the past, it's discovering that and then blocking it so that these two people can't get in, and Lev and Igor can't get in and change the votes. This could also be in the past of Donald Trump being left out in the cold that he lost the election. And so now he's coming up with lies. So far it could be either one right now. Let's see how this plays out. Okay, here's the death card. Okay, so we're going to have to go intuition here. The cards aren't going to give it to me. I'm going to have to go intuition. Okay, so the current situation is going to be the end of... it was the end of that process, whether that's hacking or the end of his presidency. Let's see how that goes. But it was the end. No, it can't... Whatever shenanigans were up to or plots he had, it was because he knew he was at a dead end and needed to move on from that. Okay, so then we've got the King of Cups. There's Biden. Biden's coming in. And he's going to take over, and he's trying to prevent that from happening because in this case it's going to be it's to him winner takes all. So in my thoughts, this is okay. So I'm going to go with my original conclusion. I don't think this is necessarily the intelligence agencies blocking it. Darn, it was going to be a great conspiracy theory. I think really what it was is that he needed to stir up the pot because he was going to be forced to leave and he didn't want to leave. So he had to think of something quick because he was rejected by the voters. And that was going to be the end of his presidency, which means that it's going to be hello court cases and possible prison because here comes Joe Biden and he's not willing to give up yet. He had more cards to play, like an insurrection to mount. What was going to be the outcome of all that? Knight of Wands. So then he went ahead with all his different schemes. Notice there was never one scheme. There were all sorts of schemes, whether it was trying to turn over votes in Georgia, blame the voting machines, trying to get fake electors put in, challenging the votes in courts, and then when none of those are working, trying to get Mike Pence to not certify the election and have an insurrection. All these things moving at the same time, all these contingency plans. So, yeah. And then underneath is the Lover's card, which it puts me right back to the FBI. Oh, God. Okay, so... I think underneath it is that maybe he was told that, in a wink and a nod, that they had control. I suspect that it's probably both. I suspect that he latched on the voting machines as a way to have a big prop for things, but maybe he knew, or maybe he didn't know, is that there was also manipulation of votes going on with those machines, and it wouldn't surprise me if we find out later on, and maybe we would never find out, right? The intelligence agencies may not tell us that, but it wouldn't surprise me if there was some hacking and some, or could this could just be voter suppression, right? This is the agreement on all the different ways. No, I'm going to go with this one. This is just the agreement, all the different ways that Trump was going to look at and the people he was working with to stay in office. Yeah, that makes more sense, right? Just literally, as I list off a litany of different plots they had on there, he couldn't do those plots on his own. He would have had to have had help, calling lawmakers from Michigan into the White House to discuss, overturning the election with them. If as we all recall, that did happen. He brought his court case to Wisconsin, and the Supreme Court voted 3-2 not to overturn their election. But the fact that they got 2 of the 3 votes that they needed is alarming. So, were the voting machines tampered with? Probably not. Was Trump trying to use it as a prop one of many props in order to overturn the election? Highly likely. So, okay, looks like I've answered my question. I'll go put on my tinfoil hat and come up with some other wackadoodle conspiracy theory for you all. But I hope you enjoyed this reading. Give it a thumbs up and a like and a comment and do all the YouTubey things. And I'll post up some more later on. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.